Texians did not invent mounted rangers. During the 1600s, Scots used the term to describe armed men who ranged a tract of countryside against raids of hostile clans. The practice migrated to the American colonies where, as early as 1739, James Oglethorpe raised a Georgia unit, the Troop of Highland Rangers. Later, settlers hired gunmen to patrol the woods against Indian attack. In times of immediate crisis, the militiamen mustered, but they looked to the local ranger to organize and lead them. He was the professional. Along with other trappings of Celtic culture, Southern immigrants to Mexican Texas brought their ranging traditions and disdain for regular soldiers. In 1823, Stephen F. Austin paid 10 men he termed rangers to protect his colony from Indian raids. In the beginning, since these irregular partisans were defending their families, settlers expected each man to arrive for duty well mounted and well armed, all this from his own pocket. They wore no uniform, fought under no flag, expressed little esprit de corps. Except for paid captains, troopers responded only in case of emergency and took their leave the instant they deemed the threat concluded. Once they arrived in Texas, Anglo-Celtic Americans encountered another tradition, one which was to influence the way they fought Indians. For generations, the compañías volantes, or flying companies, had patrolled the frontera. Unlike heavy cavalry units and stationary presidial garrisons, these light cavalry squadrons rapidly responded to hostile raiders. These hard-riding Tejanos took the fight to the Indian campsites, conducting extended offensive patrols, or cordadas. Texas Rangers adapted and adopted many tactics from the Compañía Volantes. During Spanish colonial and Mexican Republic periods, Tejano flying companies established routes into the Comancheria. Now, Rangers serving the Republic of Texas continued to patrol the trails of earlier cordadas. Anglo Rangers further implemented the caballada, a string of horses, to enable prolonged pursuits. Texians also borrowed Tejano equipment and horse gear. Anglos and Tejanos often joined forces and rode and fought together as allies. Because of this intensive cultural borrowing, Southern Rangers adapted to their new environment and became unique. They morphed into Texas Rangers. During the Revolution of 1835-1836, officials formalized Ranger organization, but only slightly. On November 24th, 1835, the interim government approved an ordinance providing for a corps of mounted gunmen. Gone were the casual enlistments. Privates signed on for a full year and earned $1.25 per day for pay, rations, clothing, and horse service. While Rangers saw some action fighting Mexican soldiers, their primary mission remained to fend off Indian incursions. As Bastrop resident John Holland Jenkins recalled,
The Indians were growing more and more troublesome, and Captain John Tumlinson raised a minute company of the few boys and men left at home. These held themselves in readiness for protecting homes and families.
President Lamar envisioned the infant republic stretching westward toward the Pacific, but harsh realities frustrated his dreams of empire. The government was bankrupt. It possessed a bantam regular army, which was expensive to uniform, arm, and deploy. Worse, it had little experience fighting horse-born Indians. Circumstances demanded an inexpensive partisan force that mustered in minutes, provided for itself in the field, and shunned pricey uniforms. In brief, Rangers. They supplied their own horses and fodder, sparing the struggling government the cost of supplying mounts and provisioning a cavalry corps. Ingrained animosity toward regular soldiers remained at the heart of the Ranger ethic. Volunteers defending hearth and home considered themselves on a higher moral ground than brass-buttoned hirelings. As Ranger Nelson Lee explained,
Discipline, in the common acceptation of the term, was not regarded as essential.
commanding those who rejected conventional authority required a leader who shared his men's egalitarian values. A ranger captain was first among equals, but that was the source of his power. Texians followed a man not because he had attended an academy or perused treatises, but because he had proven his worth in the field. Edward Burleson, rough-hewn and illiterate, would never have qualified as an officer and a gentleman in the regular army. Yet Nelson Lee and other Rangers admired men like Burleson for their valor, wisdom, and experience. The Republic's Rangers had valor and wisdom aplenty. Yet, at first, they had little experience fighting the mobile Comanches and Kiowa raiders. Riding alongside Tejano, Delaware, and Tonkawa allies, White Rangers mastered the skills required to meet mounted horsemen on equal terms. Weapons dictate tactics. In terms of both weapons and tactics, Comanches outclassed Texas Rangers. While the vaunted long rifle was amazingly accurate, it proved cumbersome for a man on horseback. Texians had to dismount to reload while their adversaries rode rings around them. Even worse, the long rifle was painfully slow to prime and load. A Comanche warrior could gallop 100 yards and fire a dozen arrows before a grounded man could load and discharge his flintlock. The Rangers needed a fast-firing weapon that allowed them to stay in the saddle and take the fight to the enemy. They did not know it, but a Connecticut inventor had conceived a pistol that was about to alter the nature of warfare on the southern plains.